Now, in today's video, we are diving into a Beachbody related liver detox. It is a program that the super trainer Autumn Calabrese, who's like the nutrition poster child of Beachbody, what she has been promoting. And I want to give a huge shout out, and I will leave her link down below, Jen Baruso. She actually got this program and shared it with me, and I really appreciate that. I sent her over a coffee as a thank you, and I'll also leave that link down below. And she has talked about this over on Instagram, but I wanted to bring it here on YouTube and give my thoughts as a registered dietitian who has a history in clinical nutrition. So we are gonna go through this and discuss some of the positives about it and also some of the concerns that I have with it. Now, I want the tone of this video to be like helpful and also not pushing people away who maybe are considering this program. I want to be very fair, and with that, I also have to acknowledge my biases towards anti-MLM. I'm not a supporter of multi-level marketing, that structure, for a variety of reasons. I've spoken about that in many of my videos, but as a short kind of like 1 or 2 sentence summary, with companies like we see specifically with Beachbody, there's always new programs coming out. There's always things that are being sold as like the thing to do, the best program, this will fix everything kind of thing. As a practicing registered dietitian, my goal is to help people build skills through practices and actions that help them with application of sustainable practices for that long-term health. My goal is to move people through that, to like graduate them outside of needing my support. As a health practitioner, I am just not a fan of keeping people. Like, it's the idea of keeping them on a supplement or on a program long term. I want to help them if they have any concerns, issues, problems with their health. I want to help them with that, and then have them, be able to sustain that on their own. And that's one of the many concerns around multi-level marketing that I have specifically, because the goal of it is to keep people in it for long term, which is interesting because a lot of MLM distributors, especially like the nutrition ones, will talk about how like Big Pharma likes to keep people in, or medicine in general, they'll keep people in the system. It's like sick care. Yet from that angle, they're doing the same thing. Anyway, I just wanted to preface with that. If all that sounds good to you, let's go. Hi folks, welcome to my channel, or welcome back. My name is Kat. I'm a licensed registered dietitian nutritionist, and on this channel I like to talk about weight inclusive and weight neutral focused approaches to health, as well as diving into scammy and, in my opinion, unethical nutrition related businesses, products, mostly nutrition related MLMs, and other fear mongering nutrition related claims. If I sound a little bit off, I have a little congestion going on. Every year I forget to start Claritin whenever like the seasons start to change. I unintentionally push it off longer than I should, and that's what happened again this year. I'm 2 days into taking Claritin, so in like a week I should start to sound normal again. If you haven't already, please like this video and make sure you're subscribed if you want. I would greatly appreciate that. And leave your thoughts about this detox program down below. If you agree, disagree, if you have any questions, feel free to leave those down below. Alright, so I'm gonna put it up here and then we'll discuss. Alright, just starting off, we have this beautiful picture of Autumn, and her plate or her bowl looks delicious. There are berries there, eggs, salmon it looks like, avocado over a bed of greens in general. That looks like a bowl that I would eat, but let's get to what they start to say. Okay, so they started off saying, when you think of a detox, you probably think of only drinking juice for days on end, or only eating fruit and vegetables, or some other form of extreme nutrition plan. That is not what this liver detox is. This is a way of eating that supports your liver's natural ability to detox the body. And it goes on to discuss what the liver does, how it produces bile to help with the breakdown of fats, how it removes waste during digestion, converting carbohydrates into glucose. Sorry if you hear my cat. Actually, not sorry. Who wouldn't want to hear a cat? Converting carbohydrates into glucose for energy, filtering the blood to remove waste products, processing things like alcohol, medications, actual like toxic substances that our bodies want to get rid of. So it really emphasizes the need for a liver detox, which is unnecessary. As it states, like, the liver has a natural ability to detox the body without needing a special kind of like detox program. Now, I am grateful. I'm glad that they said that you don't have to drink juice on end like for multiple days or only eat fruits and vegetables. So I like that. And at the same time, you don't need a detox kind of program. Now, when I was working as a clinical dietitian in a hospital, there were people who would come in for detoxes, but it was from like actual toxic substances like alcohol, for example, and they would actually need that medical support for the detox process. Now, this page goes on to say you may need a liver program or detox like this if you're experiencing any of the following symptoms: fatigue and feeling like you need a nap in the afternoon, disrupted sleep, skin issues, indigestion and or acid reflux, mood swings, and lower stress tolerance. Now, associating these kind of common symptoms with needing a liver detox, that can really miss more of the root problems of why those can be happening in the first place. Like misunderstanding of the roots of those issues. Now, I am glad that they say you may need a liver program or a detox, not like you do need a liver program or detox. So I see the nuance there. At that same time, there are so many things that can impact mood swings and disrupted sleep and fatigue and feeling like you need a nap in the afternoon. And that's something that is so common. I see with a lot of the people who I work with initially, and that's where we might really focus on that lunch. We'll focus on the food, you know, throughout the whole day, but especially making sure that they're eating enough in like the lunch frame time and making sure that they're getting a plate that provides them with the nutrients, with the macronutrients and micronutrients to feel good. And that might also include having a snack in the afternoon. And so like those are just so common. And with indigestion or acid reflux, I'm assuming what they're talking about there is because the liver does produce bile, which will help with the breakdown of fat. But there are more often than not, so I work a lot in the area of digestive health, and there are a lot of people who experience indigestion or acid reflux who some of them like might have issues with their bile, but it is so much more common for other things to be going on. And so like that one specifically, like the I don't want to say like rarity, but the people who would experience that, who like have issues with their liver, like that is in clinical practice, that I would kind of take that bullet point out. There's a lot of these issues that are impacted by overall intake, hormone status, so many other things than liver concerns. And also, if you actually have liver concerns, I probably should have said this at the very beginning. I just kind of took that like for granted. And I'm sure you as a viewer, you know this. If you have a liver issue, that if you need like a liver detox, like I would recommend seeing a health professional. If you have concerns about your liver, there are a lot of people who are experiencing just walking around with non-alcoholic fatty liver disease and don't know it. And so this is one of the reasons why it is important to get those like labs on a somewhat regular basis if possible. At that same time, I know that can be an accessibility issue. And so because of that, like even if you have non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, with the medical nutrition therapy wise application, we don't have to do a special kind of like program or detox or anything like that. We would already be focusing on what we need to support when somebody is experiencing something like non-alcoholic fatty liver disease through doing those healthy actions without needing like a detox program. Okay, so I think I spoke about the first page way too long. Let's go ahead and move on. So they mentioned how there's 2 key steps you can take to promote liver health, including decreasing your toxic load, which that makes sense. You know, if you can reduce the amount of alcohol that you're drinking, that's going to support liver health. Alcohol is a toxin, and that's another thing too. I think there is kind of it's interesting to see the focus be so much on these other areas and not on a literal toxin that is being consumed on a regular basis. Like that is gonna make more of an impact. That is so much more of a toxic load than these other little things. right? So if you really are wanting to reduce toxic load on liver, I would stay away from alcohol if possible. Okay, now she states, I recently saw a post shared by Dr. Will Cole where he states almost all drinking water, breast milk, blood, tampons, testicles, and penises researched today have unprecedented levels of pesticides, heavy metals, microplastics, and forever chemicals. Now that can induce unnecessary panic. I think it is important to be aware of where we're at as far as like microplastics go, and at the same time, I understand providing that information, but let's give more of that information. Let's give like a more well-rounded kind of explanation on that, because I actually did an Instagram reel several months ago, but it was talking about this specifically. I will put it here. Long story short though, we are seeing some levels decrease.
Are synthetic chemicals used for their resistance to oil, water, and stains. Nearly all Americans have been exposed to PFAS through contamination with food and water and elsewhere. And while this can affect health, such as changes in cholesterol levels and some increased cancer risk, CDC data shows significant declines in PFOS and PFOAs, which are two chemicals in the PFAS family. Levels have actually decreased due to reduced production and phase outs. The risks of health effects associated with PFAS depend on exposure factors, so like the dose, frequency, routes, and duration. Also individual factors like sensitivity and chronic disease burden, and other determinants of health as well, like access to safer water and quality health care. Now, it is important to be aware of PFAS reducing exposure and demanding manufacturers to stop using them. Although they're called forever chemicals, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're in the body forever. PFOAs and PFOSs can stay in the body for many years, taking about 4 years to have their levels halved, and PFAS leave the body primarily through urine, so it's not in the body necessarily forever. While reducing contamination is important, stressing about the exposures can cause more harm than good, especially for those with health anxiety or health OCD. The declining trends in PFAS reflect progress and show that exposure can be managed through preventative actions and public awareness. So it's not all doom and gloom. Do what you can and know that people are working on reducing it for consumers.
Now, while these toxins do exist, the body has mechanisms to handle typical exposure levels. Now, if you want to reduce overall load, that is totally understandable, but I don't like the fear without the kind of whole picture provided. Now, one of my least favorite parts of this page and of this whole program is the promotion of the Clean 15 and the Dirty Dozen, a website that I have recommended for years that I think has really helped with the kind of application is savefruitsandveggies.com. Now, they have a pesticide calculator that shows you how much you would need to consume before there's an issue. And I think that while this can be helpful for some people, the promotion of things like the Dirty Dozen really limits people's overall consumption of fruits and vegetables because they are fearful of those fruits and vegetables and don't purchase them as much because of the differences in like price between organic and conventional. If your messaging is promoting the reduction of fruits and vegetables, which actually can be helpful for the detoxification process, that is not good messaging. It is not helpful for a wider accessibility issue. And I can understand like maybe that the target audience might be more like affluent, people who are able to put their food budget into organic versus conventional. But for a lot of people, I'm talking about primarily in the United States, it is not realistic or necessary to expect or push the promotion of organic produce. Take a look at that calculator if you do have concerns. I think it is very helpful. The next step is to eat antibiotic and hormone-free meats and fish low in heavy metals. Now, that fish low in heavy metals, totally understandable. That's generally recommended, especially like something we hear about a lot is even like the mercury intake, especially during pregnancy. The antibiotic and hormone-free meats, it got super cloudy right now, so if the lighting changed, that's why. But the antibiotic and hormone-free meats thing. So antibiotics are not something that is used just for fun by farmers. If an animal needs an antibiotic, it is because they are sick. And when I see like companies that say like absolutely no antibiotic use ever kind of thing, that really hurts me. Like animals, just like humans, can get sick, and at times they need antibiotics just like humans. Antibiotics have saved so many lives, and to think of an animal that is suffering and not getting the proper care with use of antibiotics because they are sick and they need that and they have to suffer through that is inhumane in my opinion, when we have the resources to help that animal to get better. And so I, like, personally, I'm not a fan of companies who do say that they never use antibiotics, because it makes sense to want to take care of your animals. And if you have a sick animal and you're not going to give them medicine, then that's a little bit sketchy to me. And as far as like the hormone-free meats, hormones are not even something that is in poultry. I see it a lot on poultry packaging where it says like hormone-free. In order for a hormone to be like injected and utilized, you have to be at a certain age for that to like happen, right? And so the age of chickens, they don't reach that age, and to use hormones on chickens, it would be a waste of money. It would not make sense. That's not the like timeline. That's not the processing of chickens. Like, poultry is always going to be hormone free. And when it comes to things like beef, it is very regulated, and the amount of hormones in there is not what would have concerns with the human body. They're not going to be utilized in the body in that way. And like even the way that it's mentioned here, so it says when it comes to meat, most of us know that cattle are often treated with hormones to promote faster growth and weight gain. However, this is often a concern for many consumers. And then it says opt for grass-fed meat, which grass-fed, all meat is going to be grass-fed. The difference is like grass-finished. So like they still are going to be grass-fed, but I think she means like grass-finished. But yeah, the hormone levels in beef are far below what is naturally produced in the human body. There is strict oversight, strict regulation regarding it. And like extra-wise, they are going to be broken down during the digestion process. They don't have any kind of significant effect. Numerous studies have shown, who are not even industry funded, have shown the safety. And I just read further on, she says make sure to look for grass-fed and finished, so she did add the grass-finished piece. But then she says like this means that the animal has been fed forage and grass rather than being sneakily switched to grains for the final months. That terminology, they're not sneakily shifted to that feed. If you have any questions of the processing of beef, I know so many small family farms with cattle, and I can help you just connect with actual farmers, actual small businesses, actually people who know all about the process, who can help clarify some things. Like, I'm being legitimate. Let me know if you have any questions about that. I can even get someone for an interview on this channel. Let me know, because I feel like there is so much still misinformation and fear. A lot of times when there is lack of understanding in one specific area, that leads to fear. And I think if we can understand more of the process, that would reduce some of the fear. So like, just as a side note, let me know if you want that. And the next point is about avoiding plastics, which she says like that is much easier said than done. Glad she acknowledges that. Again, refer back to my reel talking about microplastic. Now the next point is about high quality air purifiers in the home. That might not be necessary for everyone, of course, depending on where they lived and the pollution in the area. That advice can lead to excessive spending. That's not necessary. At that same time, I will also say that I am not an expert on air quality, on pollution. And that's just one of the like ways that I guess like am or like conduct myself. If I don't know about the situation, if I'm like not knowledgeable about the situation, then more likely than not, I'm just not gonna say anything about it. That is not the same thing as me saying that everything that I say is like 100% true, or that like I never make any mistakes or anything. That is not the case. If I need to correct myself, then I will, and I have. But because I'm not an expert on air purifiers. I'm just gonna leave that there. Now for cleaning and beauty products, again, that is also not an area that I am an expert in. I will say that I do not like lots of smells. It just kind of give me a headache, and if I like have a lot of smells like on whether it's like perfume or like hair or anything like that, or like my clothes, it takes my attention and I just keep thinking about that smell. And then also when I was pregnant, it was technically a high risk pregnancy because of Hashimoto's, even though everything was controlled. But my MFM, fetal maternal medicine, the high risk doctor though, he did encourage me to use products that had less additives unnecessary, and I was already kind of doing that because I don't like a lot of like scented things, and he had said that overall to reduce kind of the load going on in my body, just as like an overall recommendation. But that's all I'm going to say about that. Now for the next page, she says to remove or reduce some foods that are hard on the liver. Alcohol, I'm glad that is the first thing that is there because it is, I think, the most consumed toxin. Again, I just think it's interesting the focus so much on these other areas of reducing load and the lack of the focus being on alcohol itself, which is like a concentrated amount. So I don't have a problem with that. So I think that is, sound advice to remove or reduce as much as possible. Now the added sugar is reducing to no more than 15 grams a day. I think that is very reductive. I think that takes out a lot of the nuance that we have kind of seen in some of the other areas of this program. And I understand that this program is not going to, it's like incapable, program is incapable of, explaining all of the nuance, but reducing to no more than 15 grams of added sugar a day, that is lower than a lot of the recommendations are. And especially if you are active, those can really be helpful for like lifting. For example, I work with a lot of athletes. I myself love to lift things heavy and put them back down, and having something like an added sugar can really be beneficial for performance. You're really utilizing that pretty quickly, and there is a way, and I mean, yes, you can use like fruits and other sources of carbohydrates. Even broccoli itself, there are glucose molecules in there. Now, yes, there's also fiber. There's also a lot of other micronutrients in there too, but that's also why I don't just recommend having like added sugar without anything else. Like, we're taking the whole picture into context. And again, I know that's not something that a program can do, but maybe that's the problem with having these kind of programs, that they just take all the nuance out and simplify it into a way that is not so realistic for many people for a variety of reasons. Am I saying to not think about added sugar intake at all? That is not what I'm saying. What I am saying is that every time we talk about nutrition, my goal is to approach it when I'm working with someone with the 3 C's that I mentioned before: curiosity, compassion, and context. And that is just not something that we can get from a program. So like, I can't be too mad that it's not addressed in a more applicable way, but that's also why I'm not a big fan of programs that just kind of like focus in on something like liver detox. Now, reducing the red meats, I will say that a lot of the research around red meats and inflammation and all of that, the question that we have to think about is what else is going on in that person's intake. Are they consuming a lot of red meats and very little fruits and vegetables? Do they have access to that? Are they overall getting enough fiber with that? How are they preparing that? On the flip side, are they pairing that together with a lot of fiber-rich carbohydrates with fruits and vegetables, with like really nutrient-dense fats? And that's just like part of the challenges around nutrition research with the intake, and like what are the other factors, what are the other variables that are playing into that. And this is one of those other areas that I do really see the need for more of that on a like regular basis, kind of looking at labs to see how liver health is doing. And then the next point, the highly processed foods, refined carbohydrates, those again depends on the context. What is the accessibility that that person has? Sometimes those options can provide some fortification of nutrients that that person would otherwise like have deficiencies in. So it really depends on accessibility. As far as using the word remove, I would put like reduce or replace, and at the same time recognizing like there can be some really like nutrient dense crackers, for example, that can be really helpful for just providing energy as part of a snack. I think that that point is a little like reductionist. The recommendations to remove or reduce foods in general, or like the organic, like having that only, those might give the impression that more affordable options for many people, that they're inadequate or they're harmful and just bringing more fear around food. There are already so many unhelpful behaviors, disordered eating practices. And that's one of the reasons why when I am working with someone, I like to focus on what would be a good idea to choose from. What are the foods? What are the things to start incorporating? Really focusing on more of what can we add versus what can we take away. And so far in this program, it's a lot of what are we going to take away? And when we're talking about things like behavior change, psychology, and just like the sustainability of things, we really want to focus on what to add in, on those kind of more positive things. I really don't like to focus on the strict removal of groups of foods or foods in particular, because from experience and also from the research, that can trigger more of this kind of like binge restrict cycle, and overall promoting an unhealthy relationship with food, and practices that can trigger something like orthorexia, where there is this kind of obsession, unhealthy obsession of eating clean enough or healthy enough. And that is something that I really fell into in my late teens and in my early 20s. Like, I became a registered dietitian to have the perfect diet, to help people as well. And also, there was a big part of that to help myself, because I wanted to have a perfect diet. I was scared of eating things like red meats and pork for a time. I was scared. I was counting literally every single calorie that I was consuming. And it led me to an unhealthy relationship with food, and something that I see so often. And so when I see programs or like recommendations, things that trigger that for a lot of people, I get like, I need to talk about it, because I don't want other people to experience the fear and the guilt and the shame around food and the confusion and just the overwhelm. Health doesn't need to have that. We don't have to have these black or white, these kind of all or nothing approaches in order to have health, in order to feel good, in order to perform well. Now, I do like that she discussed, what foods to add in, but that's like 3 lines. And I know she says like check out my full grocery list on that last line, but like there's just so much more that we can focus on and like kind of flip the script of this is what we can do to really add in more of that support. Drinking plenty of water, I think that is great, and that is also just a small little like tidbit when she could expand on that in like ways to include more water, because a lot of people know that they probably would do well with drinking more water, but how is that going to be incorporated? What are like the action steps to that? What can we do to make that more sustainable? Same thing with the fiber, another like a small portion, and like with as much focus that it was on what to take away and what to kind of be scared about, I would flip that. She also talks about how, physical activity that can help the liver. I mean, physical activity is so helpful in a variety of different ways. And so if we can incorporate that with intentional movement, joyful movement, then, that's great. If we can reduce stress levels too, that's great. Our body is connected in all different kind of ways. And typically, like if we're implementing healthy practices practices and actions for one area, that'll also impact other areas in our body in a positive way. So then she has her like fruits and veggies list. These are, you know, just general nutrient-dense foods. Nothing too wild here. I mean, this looks very similar to the focused foods that I will provide for some people of like, these are the foods that we can put together to make these really delicious meals. Here are ways that we can season those. Here's how we can apply that, you know, before physical activities. This is what we can do after, kind of thing. So I'm not like upset about that, but I think that it can just, there can be a lot less like shame around it. I mean, they're mostly like ingredients for putting together plates. I'll put a picture of a handout that I have. If you want to take a screenshot, feel free, or if you want a PDF, let me know. But like, this is an example kind of what that would look like in practice. Okay, and then she leaves off with her favorite mocktails. I'm a fan of mocktails. I think that they can be cute and delicious and fun. Overall, I would say that I am glad that she, at the end, finally took it as more of like a here's what to focus on kind of thing, but it really led with a lot of actions or a lot of recommendations that can put unnecessary focus on the reduction of things or staying away from things rather than the focus being on what to include and how to do that. More like practical kind of application things. And just associating those common kind of symptoms with needing a liver detox, I think that can just divert attention over areas that really need to have like support from other, because of other roots issues or reasons why those are happening in the first place. Like those could be hormonal imbalances that need attention from a health professional, not the hormone program. There could be nutrition deficiencies or other things going on. Okay, so that wraps it up for this video. If you're not aware, I do have my Unlock Nutrition and Food Freedom community. It is a place that is focused on application of practices and actions that support a healthy relationship with food and health and performance in general. Each week is focused on a different area, a different topic around building and strengthening a healthy relationship with food and body. And each week we have a different focus, and each weekday, we have different daily prompts that you can discuss or take to your own private journaling. There is weekly recipes. There's a monthly challenge that is not weight focused, but more about the application of the weekly topics. There's a monthly seminar. There is also a monthly Ask Me Anything for nutrition. After being a member for 3 months, you have access to a one-on-one initial consult. That is a 60-minute appointment with myself, and then 2 to 3 weeks later we do a follow-up, and then from there, as long as you're a member, quarterly check-ins. And that's just a way for me to help more with the individualized kind of plan of action for building and strengthening a healthy relationship with food. On the medical nutrition therapy side, I specialize in digestive health, also PCOS, prenatal nutrition, and postpartum nutrition. And states are kind of different with their licensure. I'm licensed in many states to practice medical nutrition therapy. So if it needs something beyond general nutrition coaching for having a healthy relationship with food, then just let me know. I can get that sorted out, checked out, and I'll leave that linked in the description box down below. Thank you so much for watching, and remember, you can strive for health without subscribing to diet culture. I'll see you later. Bye.